We're going to be reviewing today. Today is almost the end of May, right? I think we're at the 30th or something.
It is.
We're creeping into June. Right here. Here it is happening. And so before we go into June, I thought it would be good for us to review the inquiry questions, because we often don't sit with them enough. We don't ask them enough. We don't hold them enough, right? I think we tend to review them. They're in print. We think, yeah, on we go. But really, the point of the inquiry is continuous reflection, a continuous contemplation, continuous calling back of the inquiry. And we have a tendency in our go forward way, I think, to look at them, have a thought, and move on. I want to see if we have Siobhan here. I don't see her, but I want to check. Not.
She just got in.
She's good. Okay. Siobhan's here. Before we go to the questions, we're going to rest in our loving kindness practice. We talked about this last time, the essential requirement for the repetition. And by the way, the repetition alone, whether you get a certain feeling or you don't, whether you like it or not, whether it's meaningful or not meaningful, whether you go, this makes sense to me, it doesn't make sense to me. Actually, we have a lot of neuroscience evidence that it matters anyway. So how cool is this? You don't have to like it. You don't have to think it will be of benefit. You don't have to feel like it at all. I love practice like this. I just have to keep lifting the weight. This is just what I'm doing every day. You lift the weight every day, and all of a sudden, amazingly, the arm is stronger, or the heart is more open, is the analogy, right? We keep opening the heart every day with some kind of repetition towards oneself, towards another, towards those we love, towards those with whom we have difficulty, or towards ourselves, possibly for not feeling anything at all. Can we open even to that? And the answer is yes, we can. But Siobhan's here because she sent me something. I'm going to try to play a moment of that film, Siobhan. I thought it was so amazing. And if you would read that quote just about it, and then I thought I would pull it up and see if we can't get it on here. We're just going to play about 2 minutes of it, but it is so moving. Really. And do you have that quote? Is that available to you?
You know, Diana, I can look for it and it would take a minute, but I'm not sure I saved it.
Okay. I don't know if that's as important as that we look maybe at a moment of the film.
Okay.
I actually I was so touched by it. And Siobhan and others, always thank you so much for sending me things that you think are relevant to our work. We are teaching each other, right? We are students all. And so I'm always grateful for that. And this was particularly meaningful. So I'm going to see if you guys can see it. Can you see that, at least part of that screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're just going to play a moment of this. So then we'll watch and then we'll ring the bell.
People that their parents would have warned them to stay away from if they were walking down the street. You know, in other circumstances, they each would avoid each other. The fact is that here they meet and sometimes fall in love. Here they meet, and when one person dies, he is mourned. He's missed, he's changed this young girl's life, or this young man's life. In relationship, great humanity has been able to flourish in such ordinary, simple barely noticeable ways, except for that both people are different, are changed. Two people can begin to change the culture anywhere, and in a way, invite mystery in a way, invite bigger purpose in a way, and become more aware of grace and mystery. It's not our way to help people defend themselves against being hurt or grieving or experiencing fear. We want to cultivate within each person and within our community a bigger inner space, a little deeper inner space that can hold more of everything, including love. And so when love happens, and it does often, and the person dies and he's mourned, and our hearts break, that means that the heart is more open and open to the next person who comes to live here. In the real world out there, it's more of a habit to protect oneself from fear and from failure and from unknown, from taking risks, certainly from taking the risks of love, from taking the risks of forgiveness or asking forgiveness. But here we just practice those things, and it feels a little roomier, and there's a little more possibility here.
I hope that just listening to that, that's from Joseph's House, hospice in Washington, D.C., run by mostly, not run by, but staffed by mostly young college students, white college students who go there for the opportunity to serve. And as she said, are forever changed by that. If that's not loving kindness, well, I don't know what is. I don't know.
I found the quote.
Oh, good, Siobhan, thank you.
Did I read it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, hold on. To go back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the quote from Nick is that if we were to see the soul of another, our entire world would change. We'd each remember that we belong without condition and would act accordingly. And that this is simpler than we could ever imagine. If we were to start with nothing, no act on our part, then simply let the experience find us, it would lead to extraordinary things. Hallowed, mysterious, and unspeakably powerful, beyond the adequacy of words to describe. That's it. Yes, that's it thus far.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That is the prayer and aspiration for this practice. Simpler, more present, nowhere else to get to than this moment with oneself. And then any other soul, it says. And let's begin by including your own. Thank you so much. And so we're going to prepare to sit. And seeing if you can't find a way just to Invite the open heart, stretch open the front of the body. And then beginning to invite one's heart mind, that heart of bodhicitta, uh, collective consciousness, whatever God indwelling, all right names. In and towards this body sitting here and breathing. Emmy, would we maybe now call to mind one other soul, wherever two people are joined? Someone present, someone past. And see if you can't fully breathe them in. Let them as well fully inhabit that boundless heart. Let them remind you, and then so remember the feeling of this loving presence, of this loving heart. And may this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere, without exception, omitting none, beginning with these two. For the one. Taking several breaths simply to establish awakened heart mind. Touching into the body, the felt sense of the heart space. Maybe the whole of the breathscape. And seeing if we can't simply find a way to rest and actually be here. With each out breath, seeing if you can invite just a little more non-striving, a little bit more effortlessness. You are already here. With each out breath, seeing if you can settle that habited, chatty distracted mind just a little bit more by resting in each out breath. It's like petting a distressed animal. And with that out breath, we see if we can't begin to create a little more space and a little more room. And someone asked me the other day, well, how do you do that? And the answer is by resting in the stillness and silence that out breath is moving towards and into. This is the first and most radical act of goodwill, of friendliness, of loving kindness. This willingness to be with one's own body, one's own mind, one's own heart, exactly as you are. Settle back and reside within. To reside with two, to hold two, we must first dwell within with one, in one. And in that one, this body, this mind, this heart is everyone. We frequently mistake the one for something separate, its own, and we forget where we begin in the unity of the one. In the fullness. In the interbeing and intra-connection. And see if you can't rest here. Continuing to awaken the heart mind to this very human heart right here. The one that's achy, easeful, gripped. The one that is fearful and striving, judging. When we touch into this heart, this one, seeing the heart of all beings and knowing it. Knowing the whole of it, both in its contraction and in its boundless expansion. There is no resistance, there's no struggle. We don't have any preference here for what we greet. Whatever is here is here. Tight, hot, hard, confused, doubting, grief stricken, longing. This is the shared human heart. And at first, the very first work is to make contact and breathe in. Creating space and room for whatever is arising. We can sometimes begin with our own physical felt sense, or maybe a particular quality of heart, maybe an emotion, a feeling tone. See whatever is here. We greet everything, including the sometimes nothing that we craft on. This we acknowledge simply as a protector. And we allow this too. And then whatever the physical sensations or lack thereof, whatever the thoughts, whatever the emotions, we open bigger. Beginning by offering ourselves however we are right now. The phrases of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be free from inner and outer harm. May I recognize the blessings in my life. And may I use them to open further, to be of benefit. May I rest and dwell in equanimity, in the loving arms of my own goodness. My own enoughness. My own humanness. Reciting those or any other phrases that you have been practicing with that come to mind. And continue to breathe in to the heart of the present moment. Being with yourself. Softening. Opening. Allowing. Offering yourself whatever quality of heart mind is most needed right now to be with yourself most lovingly, most completely, exactly as you are. You might offer patience in the midst of confusion, tiredness, You might offer rest, ease, maybe that essential friendliness or something that you tend to reject or avoid. Maybe we can offer courage, courage right in the midst of our fear. And do not mistake this for getting over anything, not over the fear, not over the confusion, but we create more space, more room, more alignment with those qualities. Can I be courageous enough to open to my own fear? Can I be kind enough not to judge it as weak or deficient or pathetic? Can I be patient with myself to practice? Can this continue to unfold and checking back into the heart space, into the breathscape, feeling the effects of this offering. There's more space and room. You might choose now to invite in another, that special one. Someone we love, someone we've lost. Someone with whom we have connection or challenge. They're the same. And taking a moment to allow yourself contact, connection with this other, if that's the case. And if it feels like there isn't room there, this is just as workable. Remember, we just stay with our own tender hearts. For whatever reason, probably from yesterday, my father is very present here for me, as well as the reality that he gave his youth. He gave a part of his life, even though he survived, to protect others, as did many. And just see what comes up for you as we open to consider another or oneself once again as we are. Invite them in. We create space and room. And we offer these blessings to them or us or both. May you be happy. May you have ease and well-being. May you be free from inner and outer harm. May you recognize that you are a blessing. And as I offer this open heart to you, may you offer yours to yourself. May you remember your goodness. Offering any other phrases that feel present and available. And then dropping back into your own heart space, feeling the effects. Offering this goodwill, this loving presence completely to oneself. And then opening bigger, including another. And for today, we will simply rest here and now make an offering to us both or to ourselves. if we didn't call another to mind. Staying with oneself. And then we remember that one is not better or worse than the other. Anywhere we can open the heart is the reality, the evidence, the goodness of bodhicitta. May we all be happy. May we all have ease and well-being. May we all be free from inner and outer harm. May we remember that we ourselves are a blessing. May we rest and dwell in equanimity and loving presence. Remembering who we really are. And dropping into the heart space, into the breathscape. And feeling the effects. And see if there's any more space and room. I might be able to call all those just like me. With feelings like this. Gratitude with grief, with distress, with friendliness, just like this. maybe we could open to all those just like the other. Their lives, their hard work, their love, to the benefit of others. And just let the breath and the heart mind expand as it will. Just radiating that goodwill, that friendliness, that care, that compassion. Holding it for us all. May we be filled with loving kindness. And may we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we all be happy. May this loving kindness practice continue to grow. Benefiting all beings. So be it. Taking a moment. And so we're going to be going over the inquiries from chapters 3 and 4. I'll pull them up here in a moment. If you don't have it, it should be have been made available to you by email. But I just want to check in on this practice. What are you discovering about yourself in the loving kindness practice?
Hi, Diana.
Good morning, Marie. How are you?
I am good. I want to give feedback that not only do I do this loving kindness practice for myself, but at the end of every massage, I have gotten into the habit of doing 2 silent blessings with my clients. And one of them is what I repeat that often, you're repeating when we're together. And I have had people say to me, "What did you do at the end of the massage?" And I just love that people actually feel that. And I think from today, my takeaway is I'm going to add a line, and that is that may I recognize and be grateful for all the blessings in my life. And I like the idea of adding something every couple months. But at the end of the massage, what I say is, and may this massage, be of benefit.
Yes.
And when people say that they felt something, it's so encouraging. It's like, wow,
Isn't
this
it?
this really this is affecting some people.
Yes. One's own open heart only is probably the most powerful thing, isn't it? That there is, maybe that.
Yeah. And I am noticing as I get more calm and grounded, things are shifting. My interactions with people are shifting. And the other thing I really liked about what you said today was concentrating on the stillness and silence toward at the end of the out breath, because we naturally are going to inhale. It's just instinctual.
That's right.
But I think a lot about how we breathe, and actually encouraging people to feel how their rib cage expands in all directions, because that's where our lungs are. They're not in our bellies, they're in our rib cage.
Right.
And to feel, what I direct clients is, try to get big when you breathe. Feel how your ribs expand to the sides and to the front and the back, and really like put your hands on your rib cage and feel how it expands. Try to breathe your hands off of your ribs, because people just get stuck.
That's right. We get so small, don't we?
So anyway, I just want to thank you, because I feel like I have um I have people each week that I can share this with. So it's not, I don't get stuck in me, myself, and I land. That every time I work with a client, I feel like I have an opportunity to offer something to somebody else. And I really appreciate that.
Yes, me as well. Thank you.
Thank you for being here and doing this.
Thank you. It's good to hear you, see you, and know that these practices, in fact, often change us in ways we don't frequently recognize, right? We don't see it till we feel it. And then one day we're more open than we might have been, or we're sending blessings when we don't know how we got there. Or we're recognizing our own contractedness and willingly staying with oneself. Isn't that by itself is beautiful?
Yeah, and
Right?
I share the poems and things with people when, I feel like they might be receptive, and it's kind of one person at a time. And I also am more able to recognize when I'm talking to someone, as I was last night, and I feel like, this is kind of beyond my scope, and I encourage someone very much who I care about to contact a therapist, and because this is too much for me to take on, and it's nice to be
Yeah.
able to recognize that, like, I
Yeah.
don't have to try to do something that is not going to really be of benefit to me.
Or them.
Exactly, so it's
Can't
like,
be for them
yay.
either. If you're drowning, there's not much help you're going to offer. And by the way, recognizing that on all sides is beautiful, loving kindness practice. You don't have to be everything. That's not the requirement. But can you be the open heart you are, which is to say, I think you may need and deserve more support. And I want you to get that. And I want you to get right what you need. And it doesn't mean that we're supposed to be the surgeon, and sometimes the truth is, it's only you, right? It's all true. And then we do our best and we, right? And I don't know how well it's going to go. I
Oops,
just,
sorry.
yep.
That's my I have to give my cat medication twice a day. My alarm goes off at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.
We didn't even hear that.
Oh, good.
No problem.
Okay.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you, Marie. The more I keep my heart open, Dennis says, the easier it is. It's true to realize what path I need to be on, and the one you're on. Right? We know where we need to be because we know where we are. We know where we are. And this is essentially important. And can we, with kindness towards ourselves and then towards others, right? If it's not okay for you, as Marie was just saying, it very probably isn't okay for anyone, by the way. Yes, wonderful. Thank you all. I want to go to the inquiries because I want us to reflect on these a little bit. I can see it, but I don't think you can. So hold on a second. See if I can. Go share screen. Here we go. So here is the I can't see this now, but I'm wondering if you all can. Here we go. Can anyone see that? Hopefully.
Yep, we can see it.
Thank you. So here's from chapter 4. I wanted to look at chapter 3 first. And of course, as is the way it goes, not popping right up. So let me see for a second if I can get to 3. And I'm just going to read these off and we're going to see if we can't. I'm going to close out some of this, guys, so we don't have it right here. Okay. Here's chapter 4 once again. Boys, chapter 4 is just excited to be here. Because I think going to 3 would be better for us. There we go. Okay, can you see that, Carrie, or do I have to hit share again?
Nope, all good.
Okay, so here's some of the inquiries. I'm going to read a few and then we're going to respond on chat. Being with difficult emotions. This is where our loving kindness practice is essential. Being with ourselves and our own difficulties, creating space and room for that challenge, that unpleasantness, that fear. This is the beginning of our loving kindness practice. But here were some inquiring questions. What would you imagine would be different if you could actually be with yourself as you freaked out, what could you imagine would be different if you stayed with yourself in that moment? What emotion or experience or person could benefit from your ministry of presence? That was a word that Sharon used in chapter 3. The ministry of presence is simply one's open-hearted presence. How might you offer or live that? Now, we've already named a few. You could simply repeat phrases. You could offer light energy. You could send over a warm cup of coffee, Pema says, to someone who is having a difficult moment or is cold. How do you do it? And I'm going to stop there and just check in on that. How do you send the blessings? What's your way? You can come online or you can write it in chat. What is your way to do it? I usually repeat phrases. When I hear an ambulance, for example, I tend to put my hand on my chest and say, may you be well and free from harm. May you know you are in good hands. Right? May you know that you are being sent love and wishes for well-being. Right? Doesn't, right? The words themselves, not as much the point as that offering of one's open heart. And so what do you do? Looking at chat, let me see here. To be silent and absorb, yes. We could simply just make ourselves the container, open, spacious container for the experience, just breathing it in like we do in the Tonglen practice, right? Breathe in the challenge or the difficulty or the goodness, by the way, and then sending it back out. And be thinking about what you do, because we know if you don't do it with some kind of consistency, the capacity in a challenging moment to open into it as a default, literally, we default into openness, will actually result in just defaulting into contraction. Can we open to our own contractedness? Yes. Could that be the start? Absolutely. I don't know what to say. I don't have one brilliant thought. My heart doesn't feel very open. I think I'm going to throw up. Can you be with yourself and stay with yourself there? That is loving kindness practice also. So don't mistake it as something that has to be given away. We begin there, I think, often mistakenly, because if you cannot feel for your own distress, how the hell are you going to feel for mine? And what does that look like? Well, drowning mostly. And as Marie said, that doesn't have to be me. Out of my care for you, I can wish you to get to the person who can hold it. Oh, yippee. I know they're there. I might also know it's not me. If I have to do an emergency tracheotomy, the person I'm going to turn to is Carrie. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going for that. I don't have that skill. I don't know. And might I have to anyway? I said, yeah. Yeah, right. Sometimes there we are. It's just us and we're going to do our very best. Right. But that's not everyone's. Sometimes the other is also right there and we create space and room for them also. So be careful. We often take on, I think, things that are not even ours to do. So be watchful of that. Can you recognize an experience that you have been rejecting and offer it kindness, space, and love? What do you reject? What's your habit? What are you more likely going to shut down to than open? What is it? Write it in chat. You can write it directly to me. What do you shut down to? I think probably for years, my own was fear, really fear. And then because I didn't honor my own reaction to my fear, which was anger, like get rid of this, get over this, I think I shut down the whole thing once upon a time. And my work is to stay vulnerable to the fear, not even all of the strategies against it. What am I fearing here? And I ask myself that a lot. What am I really afraid of? Needing someone and then not having them be there. Someone yelling, using a harsh voice tone. Then I have to try to understand what they are needing at that moment. Yeah. Someone yelling, very probably, Robin, the best thing for you to do is drop right back into you and feel the vulnerability of that shaky tenderness, that quiver, that reactivity in you, and that you stay with yourself. I think we often believe we have to understand something about another, but it doesn't come when we're shaken in our boots. Understanding another, actually, by the way, is not very possible from there. So better to stick with yourself in that shaky tenderness and feel for those like you who, like me too, react to loud voices or to blaming or to distress, right? I take all of that as a distress signal and I become distressed as well. Can we recognize?
Definitely.
Say it again.
I said definitely.
Yep.
The distress part.
Yeah, stay with your distress. Offer your distress. Can I stay with myself in this moment of distress? Because if you think you have to leave you to figure something out, that's going to actually go bad. You will not be able to pull that off, honestly. What you can do is just recognize your own shaking, your own tender, your own scared, and stay with yourself most there. Be watchful. Yes, others might try to demand that we get out there to them, like you need to be doing for me. I think that also can also happen. And interestingly, we can buy in, can't we? Which is right. I should be able to get past this and get over to you. Well, not first. The very first thing might be, let's take some breaths and get me to a place where I can find some kind of stability of mind for myself. Right? To turn away. That is a habit of ours also, Dennis, fight or flight, right? To shut down, I think often, in a way, I think that can be very, very human in us all. What pain, judgment, or aversion may you be adding to your current experience? We do this a lot. I shouldn't be doing this. I should be able to do that. I shouldn't shut down. I should be able to say the right thing. I shouldn't be afraid. I should just go tell them, blah, 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 right? These are never useful. And we do it a lot. We do it so habitually. I think most often we don't know we're doing it. Like I should just be some other way. Can you recognize that in yourself, smile and go, but this is here. This is what I got. Shaky like this, nothing to say like this. I was in a journey this weekend and someone said to me at some point, do you have anything to add? I not only did not have anything to add, I was barely in my own seat at that particular moment. Was there a way I could acknowledge that? Well, yes, at least first for myself. Did I have brilliant things to say about it? By the way, I didn't. I just went like this. I'm just trying to stay here right now. I don't even want to add language to this. Anything else you want to add? No, I'm just going to hang out right here because going anywhere is not going to be useful. And what do we do if we acknowledge and don't resist our pain? Then we are obligated, just like you would a crying baby, to be with it, right? You can't recognize the distress and go, too bad for you. That's real harm. And we do that too often as well, don't we? Or be some other way. Or don't get out of there. Don't, right? That's not the way out, by the way. Just saying, you're not getting out of anything from there. So just be prepared. We can say it and often habitually do. It's not going to make it better for you. What happens if we can offer ourselves a nurturing response? Let's forget that word, nurturing, just myself. What if I offered myself? I'm just scared like this. I don't know what to do yet. I'm just in distress. Can I offer myself some kind of a friendliness or a loving phrase as a beginning? I don't have any great ideas yet. Is there such a thing as love that is not unconditional? I would love to hear from everyone. Is there such a thing as love that is not unconditional? What are people's thoughts about that? And how does it exist?
I say yes.
Yes. And how is
Because
it?
I think you can hold love and and still hold your you can hold love because you're related to someone, but you don't have to always accept everything unconditionally in the way they treat you or treat others.
Oh, that's not actually what I think I was meaning.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a behavior may be unskillful, and it may actually be wise to put a limit or to say stop, and that could be unconditional love. Robin, to say we're not going to do this. This isn't going to be helpful to you or to me to continue, so we must. But it would be with the heart of true loving kindness that it was offered, not with hostility, aggression, or denial.
Right.
And so that would be love. Out of my care for me and you, I cannot allow this damaging thing to occur. That is love. Yeah. And love and acceptance are tricky. That's a little tricky business. We're talking about the heart of bodhicitta here, the one that says, for me to act at all, it will be better to act from a place of love than a place of reactivity. And the love might be just walking away, Dennis said. It might be, right? That might be what the best I can do in this present moment. But that could be just as unconditional. In fact, unconditional, because I'm in my care for you while you're being a jerk, while you're being unskillful, while you don't have it together, while you're in your own distress state. I will act as lovingly, skillfully as I can. That does not mean I have to put up with it. That's a mistaken understanding. That's a saccharine version of love. So we want to be careful there. We can lovingly say, knock it off, by the way. And that is often unconditional love, because look, how easy would it be to fall into aggression or into denial, right? It really takes a lot of love to say, out of my love for you, I can't let you do this or continue this, because it will not benefit. It can't benefit the other either, can it? It doesn't, even if they think so, right? Even if they think so. So the answer, I think, might be love is unconditional by its nature. I think we conditionalize it often by getting into ideas of what should or shouldn't happen or how, right? But I think the truth about caring for another, just like we would our children, right? We could imagine a parent and a child. You would not let that child do whatever they wanted to do because it would be ultimately destructive or damaging or dangerous to them. and that can be unconditional love also. So we'll just hold that idea that the heart of bodhicitta, by its very nature, is unconditional. And I think we can conditionalize it sometimes. What is something you have needed to cry about that you have resisted, separated from, or denied? What is something you've needed to cry about? This is one of our habits. We tend to stuff, push away, push in, or cut off from ourselves. In the journey experience this weekend, there was a lot of tears, and they were really necessary. They were necessary. These were tears that have needed to be cried, by the way, I think throughout generations. Throughout generations, that we have held on to some of pain, some of those losses, some of those inequities. When I was at Miramar Cemetery yesterday, I cried for all those young men, like my father, who probably didn't have a clue of what they were really doing or what they were really getting into at all. And that, some of them were 18, 17, 16-year-olds in that graveyard, in that cemetery. And a lot of them, right? Look at what we have propagated throughout time, right? Really. And we should all cry for this, that we have believed that this would be a solution, right? In any time. It's just, you're struck by the grief and the reality of it. And crying is appropriate, isn't it, here? Not a sign of weakness or self-indulgence at all. What is your own personal toolkit of resources that can support you when you are hyper or hypo aroused? She used that, too restless, too energized, too agitated, and recognizing that, and to think about, what do I need when I am imbalanced? Because that's how we get to be reactive. What do I really need? For me, it's mostly more space. More space. And I'm looking at that, like, right, so that I don't get caught in just doing. It's not best. How do I create that for myself and then others? And so looking at that, what resources do you really need? Can you recognize when you are pushing yourself into denial or into numbing? And from that numbing, by the way, we know you are likely to go grab one of your addictive devices. And just know that that's the pattern. From that deadening, can't feel this, very likely you're going to need something to distract, to entertain, to, right, rather than sit with that feeling. And I've used my example of caramel corn. It's just one small example. People having space in their day. I watched it the other day. People at the cemetery, for example, on their phones. I was actually stunned by that. I did also get out my phone, I will say, and I thought a lot about it. Like, is this even necessary? I wanted to take some pictures for my dad's wife. And so I but even getting out the phone, I was like, do I need to be doing this really? Is this necessary? Is there something else I'm looking for here? And I had to think about it for a moment. And I think we have to watch things like devices a lot, because I think they are an amazing, both distraction and addiction from our real lives. Name something that you projected as stuck, permanent, or fixed in your future. What I would say now, based on chapter 4, by the way, is in yourself. Name something that you projected as stuck, permanent, or fixed. my bad relationship. That's me freezing it, isn't it? It's not a truth. It's not true. It's not true. There are challenging moments. That doesn't mean it's bad. Myself, I'm just always going to be that. Really? It's not true either. Where did you get that identity? Where did you stick that on? I used to call that pin a tail on a donkey, right? Just bleh, that's just the way it is, and that's the way it'll always be. Be careful about this. It's not true, is it? It's never true. Because the minute you're different, by the way, it's different. And by the way, it doesn't mean the other went into recovery, does it? Nope. Doesn't mean they went to therapy. Nope. Doesn't mean they changed anything you could see on the outside. Not at all. And by the way, nothing's the same. Nothing's the same when you are different in it. And you have to remember that also. And then look at how you are arriving to it, I would say. Is it with this idea it needs to be different? Because that usually is where we're stuck. So be watchful of that, both as we stick ourselves with permanent identities and ideas and stick the other with permanent identities. I'll give you an example of this. Yesterday, I said, I want to go to the cemetery. I've known my husband most all my life. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's not going anywhere. He's not going. He's not getting in that car. He's not driving 20 minutes into traffic. It's to get to the cemetery, which is probably, and he went, oh, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, that whole idea about him is not accurate. Right. And there I'd already set it up going, I'm going to ask him, I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to go, why not? And then blah, blah. Nope. That's not how it went at all. And can I weave that in to the truth? That too? Or am I just going to stick with my evidence? Right? Can I weave that reality right in? Because it's true and there. What do we do when the window of tolerance, remember that part from 3, becomes narrow, weakened? We call that also psychological inflexibility. We call it maladaptive stress, right? There's lots of words for that. Can we recognize when we are insufficiently resourced and let it be that, rather than some deficiency of our character, our person, right? And it's not easy. And if we can do it for ourselves, the good news is we can do it for others. We can recognize those moments for them when they are not sufficient, rather than going, you're just this way. You're just. Siobhan says, I've resisted the big things, climate change, homelessness effects, and tragedies of war, mass shootings. Yes, this could drown us. When we get that big, right? Because it's a lot to hold and there's not necessarily a solution up there. And you can buy somebody a McDonald's lunch today. You can hand somebody, right? We can go drop off cans at the food bank. We can go, right? That's workable. But the minute we get bigger, I call that climbing the mountain. We look up. We think we've got to get there when we're actually here. And what happens? We fall right off the mountain. There's nothing to do from there. And so can we get back into real life, this moment? I care about climate too. What can I do? Recycle. I care about homelessness too. What can I do? Have some bags in my car with blankets and things in it. I can, right? And yes, it's tempting to say that isn't sufficient. It's true. Don't we? And then decide that we're weak and deficient because it's poverty and crime and hunger and aggression are all still here. And it matters. And it matters. And so be watchful. Watch yourself and our own window of tolerance. We may need to get smaller where we can really stand first. I can do this and I can do this every week. I can drop off cans every week to St. Andrews. That might be what I can do. And we tend to look at what we can't do, don't we? It's a bad habit. What can you come to as givens, realities that just require acceptance rather than liking or seeing as blessing? She was talking about that what do we call that in chapter 4? Something like toxic positivity. I think they called it in chapter 4. This was meant to be all good things will come. We can add cliche and rather than allow the reality of grief, rather than allow the indignity of the inequities, we can paste on these platitudes or bliss states or blessings, and we have to be careful. Neither do we make those the only truth, right? Yes, it's painful, and how do we hold that? Well, sometimes we hold it first just as pain without trying to fix. And then 12, can you consider that it's greater than can you consider that something is greater than the story, that you are greater than the storyline about yourself, your limits, your strengths, or even your identity? Nothing is fixed here. Can you sense the expansion of being that is made available once you don't buy into the storyline? Can you be strong and weak? Yep. Can you be fearless and fearful? Oh, yes. Can I be greedy and generous? Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Can I be the whole of this life experience? You betcha. And in fact, that's probably what we are. Back to being hyper aroused, says Siobhan. It's always better for me to sit with the feelings first to build capacity, then can do one of my calming practices. Yes, if we can just be with, this is the greatest act of loving kindness. The very willingness to be with oneself exactly as you are, you hear me say it a lot, is the first radical act. Then whatever we offer is actually most right, most of benefit. Whether we do this thing or that thing now, it's where it comes from that actually is the infinite blessing. It's already 8:30 and we only went over 3. I'm going to ask that you look over 4 yourself, because I want to make sure that we're holding these questions for ourselves. Here's chapter 4. We were, remember last week, opening to gratitude for someone who is our teacher, who we don't particularly like or enjoy or find fun or pleasant, and I want you to review that again. Can we see them as our greatest, best friend and teacher? And can we then allow the truth of our greatest vulnerability there? That as we perceive the other as deficient, we are actually seeing ourselves as deficient also. And in chapter 4, we were going to be practicing the phrases. So let's go back to that, practicing the phrases. Which ones? Any one you can get to. That's which one. Any phrase you can possibly get to is the phrase to be working on. I don't know what to say. I wish you well. I don't know what to offer yet. I just want you to know that I see the distress and I'm holding it with you, right? Wouldn't this matter? And as Marie said, yes, not only does it matter, others can feel it too. If you didn't see that little article, I think Sharon wrote about it actually, the little chimpanzee. Did anybody see, did she put it in the book? She didn't put this in the book. Oh my God. It was a true story of, I'll tell it quickly, chimpanzees that zoos had brought together to mate. And the male chimpanzee was being fairly aggressive with the female. And she was on a 25-foot chain. Can you imagine this? Chained up, which sounds just horrific and cruel. And he was pulling on the chain and she started pulling back. And she found this woman who wrote about this in the crowd and actually went over to her and grabbed her hand. And then walked over to the other woman in the crowd and they held hands together. Now, what's that? What's that? You can feel the truth, can't you? She knew something about that woman right there. And it emanates, and you get to trust that too. So I'm sorry that wasn't in the book. I thought it was. It's a beautiful little story. And it's actually a true story.